Okay, again, I hold these residency roundtable sessions every month on the first Tuesday at lunchtime. I do this so it's meant to be an open forum for questions, concerns, issues you might be having, discussing the best options to plan for residency training. This is open to all students. The vast majority of the students that interact on these sessions are third and fourth years because they're out on campus and really don't have a lot of contact with me back here on campus. But I've been putting out the word a lot more to first and second years because I think it's very important to start planning your residency application even during this first year when things are really busy, and definitely during the second year, which is why I really sent out this invitation to everybody to attend this session that I'm going to have, because this session, for a little bit of it, I want to focus on developing your CV. The reason that I'm focusing on it for the second years is because you're going to need this CV whenever you start requesting letters of recommendations from preceptors next year. And just so everybody knows, Dr. Frank just joined us. So if you have questions, she's also, like I said, she's one of the folks in my department that will help you with your residency planning, as well as Scott Maxwell, who really handles the paperwork end of it. They tend to leave us out of that because that involves computers and we can really mess those up. So CV is what I wanted to focus on today for this residency roundtable session. And it really won't take the entire hour. This is probably only going to be a 30, 40-minute talk. And then the rest of the format is just a question and answer session. Please feel free to ask us anything you would like. So basically the CV, one, reasons to start working on one now, just like I said, next year when you're out on your rotations and you're going to be considering asking your attendings for letters of recommendation, having a CV prepared that you can hand those attendings is going to be very valuable. The way I always have told students for the last several years, a process to ask attendings for letter of recommendation is just this. One, I suggest you get a large manila envelope of the size that will hold an 8x11 sheet of paper. On the outside of that envelope, you're going to put your name, the date. You're going to put requesting letter of recommendation. If you know what type of residency you want that letter for, then that's great. If not, then just put general letter of recommendation for residency training. And then put your contact information. Put an email. Please make sure you're checking your emails. Put a phone number if you're okay putting your phone number on. Now inside that envelope, you're going to have some very important documents. And the number one is going to be your CV. Now, there's two schools of thoughts about the basic CV. The one that I'm going to give you is from a program director's thinking, what I've seen over the past many years of being a program director and reviewing student informations. The first thing on that CV is, one, I like a small picture embedded up in the corner. One, I'm old and I remember faces before I remember names. And what that will do is it will help jog that preceptor's memory, especially if it's been a month or so since you had rotated with them, to say, oh yes, I remember who that student is. So it's kind of nice to have that small picture up there, but make sure that that's a professional photo. If you have any questions about your photo and whether it's appropriate or not, send it to me, Dr. Frank, to Scott. We'll be happy to look at those and make sure that they are professional photos. So now the CV, and that's the main thing that I wanted to talk about today. Now, if you remember way back to last year, you might remember that I did present in your class and gave you an example of a CV, or what I thought a CV of a third or fourth year medical student should look like as a program director looking at those. And you have to realize, as a program director, there are key things that we focus on when we're looking at students' CVs. I also set it up kind of like the topics that you will have whenever you're into ERAS. ERAS stands for Electronic Residency Application Service. That is how you are going to apply for residency programs. So it's a form, a computerized form that you will fill out. The nice thing about having this CV template is you can take pieces from your CV and just cut and paste it into your ERAS application. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to share my screen so that I can show you this document just in case you forget what it was that it looked like. Excuse me. It's taken its time. Okay. Now, I am going to ask Dr. Frank, can you see this CV template? Okay, good. Thank you. Because I wasn't too sure. It said you're sharing a whiteboard. It's like, no, it shouldn't be a whiteboard. Okay, so this is the CV template that I had sent last year to your class. I did a little updating of the dates today so it doesn't look as old as it did. But this will be placed within eMedley for you. Those of you that are second years, I have a Dean's Hour on Thursday at 11 o'clock, along with Dr. Boisford and Dr. Linsemeyer. And this CV template was to be attached to your lecture at that time. So you should have access to this. For some reason, if you don't, please contact me and let me know. I'll be happy to send it out to you again. All right, so it's the basis. You know, put your little photo up in this corner. A small photo does not have to be a huge photo. This form does not have to be anything fancy. You can go on the internet and find tons of templates for fancy CVs. Just make it pretty straightforward, just like this. The other reason for this is because you can keep adding information to this document and will make it easy as you go through the second year, your third year, up until the time you get ready for ERAS. And after you get out into residency and practice, you can still just keep adding to this document, because even during residency, you're going to be required to provide CVs for things. And definitely when you're out in practice, everyone's going to be wanting updated CVs. And I receive CVs from physicians because of different responsibilities they have with the GME department and Mountain State Opti. And it's amazing how old those CVs are that docs have just not taken the time to update. So this is a template that I give you. It's a Word document. You can add and keep using it. So basic information, your phone number, email address. Please make sure that email address is a professional email address. Use the school email. It's free. After you graduate, you'll have an alumni email that is free. It's a nice professional email. You'll add your AOA and NRMP numbers. NRMP stands for National Residency Matching Program. That's how you will apply and match to a residency program. The first section should be about your education. At your level of training, you really don't need to put high school on here. Your graduate programs, any graduate programs you did, like this one I have, an MA program, PhD programs, please add those. Remember, for every section, make sure that it is in reverse chronologic order. This makes it easier for people to know what you're currently doing and your path to get to that degree. So you can see this just goes through to college. The next section I like is certifications. This is going to be important because you're going to put your ACLS, your BLS. If you have pediatric advanced life support, obstetric advanced life support, these certificates go here. But I also want you to put if you have EMT, paramedic training, or any other specialty that has a certification. Physical therapy, put those in this section. This lets that program director know what has been your breadth of training. The next section you can use as professional experience. You can call this professional experience. You can call this work experience. It really doesn't matter. I just used professional experience on this one because I put a summer intern position that maybe this student had. Hospital volunteer work can either go here or it can go under volunteer activities. There's no right or wrong place to put that. If you were paid for any position, that should go here. Some students get concerned that maybe they shouldn't put that they worked at Taco Bell or they were a barista someplace. If that was work that you did during college or in between, that's fine to put it. Yes, Dr. Frank, you had a question.
There's a question in the chat. It says, if your certification has lapsed, would you still add those in?
Yes, you would. And thank you so much for monitoring the chat because I can't see it right now. Okay, but yes, if your certification has lapsed, please put that in because that lets that program director know what have you done in the past. So very good. No, definitely. The next section, scholarly activity publications. This is where you're going to put publications. You can even put presentations here. Let's say you go to a local daycare and you do a presentation to the children on hand washing techniques. Put that in there. You will list the title of the presentation, who your audience was, the location where you gave that presentation, and then the date. Just the month and the year is all you need. If you have a poster presentation, same thing. Put that there. Yes, Dr. Frank.
Question from the chat. Would mini med school apply?
If you did a presentation to a group during mini med school, yes. Otherwise, I would put most mini med school activities are volunteer activities. So if you're a part of a group that has set up the mini med school, then I would put that under volunteer. But if you did a certain section and did a little presentation, then I would put that under presentation.
I have one more question. Does it matter if the presentation was related to research in undergrad, or if they were related to publications, would you still put that under presentations as well?
Yes, you would. Anything you did undergrad, if you had a formal presentation to anybody other than your class or instructor, then you can put it under presentations. Definitely if you did some research or some type of presentation in undergrad, definitely put those also. Remember, everything you put under these columns, make them reverse chronologic order. Okay. The section of professional activities and organizations, this is where you're going to put all the clubs, organizations you belong to. Now, the organizations that you belong to as a student member, make sure you delineate that they are student chapters, like the student chapter of ACOFP, the student chapter of ACOG. Those are wonderful to put down. But make sure you list if they're student chapter. Now, if you are a member of the national level, say you're a member of AOA, then you put that down. You don't have to say that it's SOMA, although you may be in SOMA, but if you're a member of the AOA, you put those down. Past organizations that you were involved with, especially if you were an officer, list those. You know, there are a lot of scientific organizations that you may have joined as an undergraduate. Put those down and then put the school chapter there, just like you would for WVSOM. And yes, list your undergraduate organizations also. Again, reverse chronologic order. Okay. Academic awards. This is exactly pretty straightforward. Your touch hour awards. A lot of times you'll put honorary societies in here. Sigma Sigma Phi, Psi Sigma Alpha, Alpha Omega, I can't remember the other A. It's not AOA, it's Alpha Omega something. I can't. Anyway, but put those down. Put the school that you were affiliated with when you had those, but list those in your academic awards. Now, professional memberships and professional activities and organizations, I kind of separated these out on this example, but you can definitely just keep these all in one place. Again, no right or wrong way to do it. Some like to separate them out. And so for this example, I left it this way, but it's okay. It's okay if you just put them together. And some people actually do put them together. So it just makes it easier reading. Yes, Dr. Frank, question. Unmute.
A question from the chat. Would the last section include the certificate like the opioid series?
The opioid series, you can either put up here under professional experiences, or you can put it under other educational achievements. And that's kind of a new section. You could put it under academic awards, other educational achievements. Either one of those sections would be fine for that. Volunteer activities. Oh, here, and this is an example where I used the mini med school. Volunteer activities are just that. Any activities you did during undergraduate and gap years, and definitely during medical school, you can list these. If you did something that you started during high school, say you were in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and you're still doing that, list it. If you were in scouting and you're still involved with that, then list it. So it doesn't really matter how far back you go, as long as you're still involved with those. And I've had students that have been involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters for a long time. Yes, Dr. Frank.
Question from the chat. If we did research in undergrad, but the publication came out during med school, would you list the publication under a timeline or just on the date it was published?
You list publications on the date they were published. So even though because a lot of times it takes a year or two to get something published. So the date that it's published, that's the date that you listed. Yes.
If you were part of a service organization in undergrad, would you put that in volunteer or under memberships and organizations?
You can list it either place. If it was mainly a volunteer organization, I would put it down under volunteer activities, such as scouting, something like that. Unless you were an officer at a national level. And I missed saying this, when under your organizations, if you held any office within that organization, the way you would list that would be the dates of your membership in the organization, so the parent organization, then immediately indented under that, you would put, let's say, SOMA, WVSOM chapter. Immediately under that, you would put president and the year that you held the office of president. Yes.
Would you include athletic academic awards from undergrad, such as scholar, athlete, all conference, all academic teams, or just keep it to academic awards?
No, I would list those sports or whatever those awards are. No, that's fine to list. Those are accolades that you have, and you should list those. We've had a lot of academic scholars at WVSOM, and yes, I encourage students to put those on their CVs. And then the last thing that I'd like adding to this, and actually on your ARIST, it says interests and other activities, but I like to call it hobbies. And I like for students to just use one-word descriptions there, like I have here, fishing, hiking, singing. Those are fine. I've had students put cooking, spending time with my family. This is great. Those are all great things to add to these. And that's pretty much your CV. If you keep it in this Word document, you can easily keep editing and add things to it as you go through your career. And again, as I said, for physicians, you will be updating your CV at a minimum of at least every 2 years. So now, any other questions? All right, I am going to stop sharing my screen maybe.
Dr. Shuman, I have a question. So I just have a couple questions actually. So first of all, if you're involved with any religious organizations, would you include that or would you like keep that out? Oh, also you're muted. Good.
There. Okay. As I was stopping sharing, I think I hit the mute button.
You're good.
Okay. No, please, if you're involved in any religious organizations, you know, if you're an officer in any, list those. List those.
Okay, and then also if we were to do any mission trips in undergrad that we want to include, would that go under volunteer?
Correct. That would go under volunteer, Bailey.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Now I'm going to stop the recording so you don't have to worry about being recorded.